What up, people of the internet? This is Jimmy D talking on the 360 Sports Network, and yet again, it's the weekly thing. What's wrong with sports? And I gave myself a day to think about it and to let everything come out and to tell how I thought about Chase Utley's slide into second base. And then they end up coming out and giving him a 2-day suspension. And now I'm completely livid. So you're going to hear me go off here in about 10 seconds. First things first. By definition of the rules, Chase Utley should be out. He did not slide directly into the base, which is the requirement based on the new rules in baseball. You cannot, be close, be able to touch the base. No, you have to slide directly into the base. He slid directly into Tejada and then reached out with his hand so he could touch the base. The fact that he slid late, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It was a hard slide. Any baseball player out there would say that they are fine with his slide, to be honest. But in terms of the rules and how they are right now, he should have been out at second base just because of how he slid. And that should also mean because he broke up a double play, the guy going to first base should also have been out on the play because of the illegal slide to break up two. Now, before I even get into the suspension part of this, let me first talk about the fact that Utley was then awarded second base. Because they went to replay and determined from replay that Tejada never stepped on the bag. Therefore, the force out was never completed. Either have the neighborhood rule or don't have the neighborhood rule. If you're going to have instant replay that can go slow-mo and see whether or not they stepped on the bag, then the neighborhood rule should never exist at all. Because you have to say definitively, did he step on the bag or did he not step on the bag? And the reason why this becomes a complete farce is because, again, replay cannot determine judgment calls. Just like we said last week with the Batgate with the Seahawks in the NFL. That you cannot determine a judgment call at all, which I think is complete bogus, because sliding directly into a base is a judgment call by the umpires. But I could clearly see in replay that he did not slide directly into the base. Why can't that be overturned? It's a judgment call whether you're in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood depends on, whether the throw was in line, whether there was a chance on a double play or not, or whether it was simply a straight-up force play, versus did the throw pull him off the bag sort of thing. Again, using instant replay, I can see very clearly that throw did not pull him wide, that there was going to be an attempt at a second base before he got his leg shattered. So why can we not review this? If I can see it, I can review it. I just don't understand how these Major League Baseball, NFL, all the above, how they cannot understand and see that just makes so much more sense. If you're going to have replay, use it the right way. Now, to the suspensions. A 2-game suspension, first off, is absolutely ludicrous. The fact that it's playoffs, if you want to give him a 1-game suspension, if you deem that he was egregious enough, I can't see going more than a 1-game suspension, because a single playoff game is equivalent to about 5 or 6 in regular season games. If you consider the fact that you only have a 5-game series here to begin, you're talking almost 15 or 20 games in terms of equivalency. So you're telling me that him sliding late into a base right there, doing something that 99% of Major League Baseball players would say they're completely fine with, that they would have done the same thing. You're saying that is worthy of missing 20 baseball games. Now, I think if you are in agreement with that, then that's an absolute joke in my mind. To me, this is Major League Baseball trying to save face, because they realized they completely messed up. And now the fact that the other team is going to be without their shortstop, or their second baseman, their middle infielder now for however many games are left in this series, plus the rest of the playoffs potentially. So he's gonna be out for the rest of the postseason. That the guy who caused him to be out then has to, suffer the consequences as well. He has to pay for that. And again, to me, that's a complete, absolute joke. You're going and saying, well, we should have enforced the rules better, so we're going to enforce them after the fact by suspending the guy. You did not call a penalty during the game. You did not call him out during the game, but you're going to then say that what he did was so wrong that he must miss 2 more games. This is... I don't know. I think this is almost as bad, maybe worse, than when James Harrison was fined $100,000 for 2 hits that were deemed legal on the field. And actually, I'm going to still say that the Harrison fines were a little bit worse, just because back then, those hits were not illegal. Let me clarify. They were legal. There was no rule against those hits, yet he got fined $100,000 for them. At least with this, you can say, if you're Major League Baseball, yes, they should have been punished on the field, and we were also going to punish them off the field. We missed them on the field, but guess what? You're still getting punished off the field as a result. You're not getting away with that. Whereas Harrison's was not punished on the field because he did nothing illegal at the time. Now, yes, if he did that today, he would be fined, kicked out of the game, and possibly removed from the league completely. That I understand. But back then, at the time that everything has happened, there should have been no foul given, and then how can you punish somebody and fine somebody for something that wasn't even punishable? So I can even see Utley making that appeal when he does do this appeal process. And now they're trying to expedite the appeal process, and I think they need to do that because, to be honest, this is going to be a huge game coming up, and he's definitely appealing. If he appeals, that means that there's no way that he's going to miss the next game as a result. So what's going to happen is he appeals, he gets to play the next game, the appeal process goes through, even if he loses, then he has to miss the next 2 games after that. Well, that still just bought him 1 more game in this series, and that could be the life or death of his team. So, to me, if you're going to have something like this, I know you have to have due process and the appeal process and all that, but you've seen this before where players will choose what games they want to be appealing for, essentially. That they could go and say, okay, I appeal for a game, and then, you know what, I don't want to go through this whole big process, I'm not going to appeal anymore, so that they got to play in that one game, and then now, okay, this game doesn't matter as much, I'm not going to worry about it. That's a whole nother debate for a whole nother day. But the main thing is, again, replay has completely been jacked up. Officials, again, are making terrible calls. I won't even go into the strike zones in all these playoff series, including the 2 wildcard games. Just all in all, officiating both on the field and in the replay booth needs to improve. Consistency with rules and knowing the rules needs to improve. And we need to have some fair expectations, because otherwise you're going to have players who are going and almost Pete Rosing a guy at home plate and then wondering why one day they're going to be thrown out and the next day they're going to be called safe. I'm Jimmy D, James Dotson, and this is What's Wrong with Sports.